Well, we are well into our winter season now, and that means that we are eating different foods because we don't have fresh stuff from the garden anymore. This is like the last little bit that we have. This is just this little bin underneath the shop that we tried storing some of our vegetables in. I'll tell you how it fared. Leeks did awesome. It's been close to 2 months for those, and the rutabagas and some of the root crops that we have, those actually stored really nicely in here as well because there is a decent amount of humidity down there. The Brussels sprouts didn't do that well, so those only lasted about a month. We had to get to them real quick. I actually ended up cleaning them up and freezing them. And we tried to put green onions and celery down here. They did so-so. They lasted about 6 weeks, but what happened is they're starting to basically put their energy into growing, so they are degrading. They're not looking so hot anymore. We were able to still use quite a bit of them, so that was good. I know a lot of you have asked if we're gonna build a root cellar in the future, and although we would love to have one and build one, it's just not something I feel like we wanna take on at the moment because other projects have taken us so long to do. We thought it would be fun to bring you along for a few different dinners this week. This time of the year, we're just eating like grocery store food. We're eating any sort of things that we were able to preserve from the garden, whether that's freezing or canning or fermenting. If we're lucky to have meat in the freezer, which we do, we can rely on that. I'm gonna grab some of this for tonight and tomorrow, and then we're gonna swing by the chicken coop. A little dusty in here today. All right, we got baby eggs. So some of the pullets are starting to lay. And we also added a permanent desk box in here that they seem to be enjoying. Okay. Let's head inside. Ooh, you got the fire going, huh? Good. Veggies are chopped and we are having stir fry tonight. We're down to the last few cabbages that we have. This one was frozen because it was outside, but it still makes pretty good table fare. I forgot to mention that we were gonna make our own noodles as well. So we've got the dough ready. We're gonna let it sit and then we're going to turn it into noodles, boil them, cook them. And in the meantime, Eric was going to make the stir fry sauce. Do you need any more flour on it?
Seems to be working pretty well.
Here, let me just...
Just a little sticky. All right, now let's go down to 6.
No, you're actually supposed to run it multiple times through 7.
Through 7? No.
Yeah. No.
What?
Just hold on. Hold on. Yeah, keep it coming.
Do you guys should get the water home?
I think so.
I think we might have to this one. Otherwise, we're not going to eat until tomorrow.
Homemade noodles.
The easy way.
Simple.
It's not often we get to eat caribou tenderloin, and that's because there's only 2 of them on each animal, but we're eating it tonight. We've got it thinly sliced. I did like kind of a marinade on there, soy sauce, sesame oil, garlic, some red chili flakes. This is almost done, and we're gonna pull this out, and then we're gonna start adding everything, starting with the vegetables. What's that? Yeah. Let's put the meat in. Egg. The 4-hour dinner has arrived. And now it's going to take us an hour to eat it because we're using chopsticks.
It didn't actually take 4 hours. It was probably 2.5 to 3. The pasta maker was throwing a little bit of a tantrum today, so that took longer. But I assure you, homemade pasta is far superior to anything you will ever buy at least, you know, American grocery stores.
Here we go. Let's eat. This looks good. I'm excited to try this pasta fried up like that.
This is how a child sits at a table.
Well, we are children pretty much. Okay. I'm getting a fork.
The meat is pretty spicy, I thought.
Man, that tenderloin is good. I love stir fry. So many ingredients and Asian flavor, you know.
I think the peanut is key to that sauce.
Yeah, that's like what I've been doing non-stop, is just trying to get things together.
Finally got things all cleaned up, and then we can simmer down. And here we try to make leftovers when we make our dinners. That way we get kind of like 2 meals out of 1. I am working on sourdough bread for tomorrow, so I fed my starter twice within the last 24 hours. That's a little bit of a heavy feeding, so he's very bubbly right now. And I'm going to take probably about half a cup out of here. What we are doing is making the leave-in, and that's basically just like a portion of this starter that we're going to be fermenting and using for the sourdough bread tomorrow. So get a little bit of that in there. And what I usually do is like a 1 to 2 and 2 ratio. So 1 part of this sourdough starter, we'll do 2 parts water, usually warm water, and 2 parts flour of your choice. I think I'm going to use wheat. A little more. Our leaven went overnight and was nice and bubbly. It was ready for the next step. I'm adding water and more flour at this point. You can see the mixture floats and has lots of air bubbles. And when I make sourdough, I never measure anything, so I just kind of go with the feel of it. The truth is that making sourdough bread, every loaf comes out different, and it's much more of an art. The flour you're using, the water, and the humidity in your house all play a part. I typically use both all-purpose and bread flour when making sourdough, and I'm just mixing everything up until it comes together as this like shaggy mix. We set aside 1 tablespoon of kosher salt and a little bit of warm water, get it dissolved. At this point, the dough has to rest again for the autolyse stage. I think I waited about an hour on this bread before I added that water and salt mixture to it, and I just kind of work everything in together. I like to do a series of like stretch folds. That works best for me. With high hydration bread, it's really sticky and just really hard to work with. I let the bread rest in between folds and keep like a wet towel just to make sure it stays moist.
And I'm probably doing this every hour or so. Our house tends to be pretty warm, so the bread does rise quickly. Giving it a little finger check there. And it's time to shape our loaves. I'm splitting this in half because I'm making bread bowls for dinner. Usually I just bake one big loaf. I try to be as careful as I can with the dough to preserve the bubbles and let the bread sit again. In the meantime, I start the oven up at 450 and I get out our Dutch oven and get that heated up in the oven. And I always make sure to put some cornmeal down, otherwise the bread will stick to the bottom. After the Dutch oven is nice and hot, it's ready for the bread. I usually add a little bit of moisture, put the lid back on, and get it in the oven. These breads take a while to cook. I bake them for 30 minutes before removing the top, and then I let them cook an additional 20 minutes. And just like that, we had 2 beautiful loaves.
All right, we're grabbing some vegetables for dinner. We have our potatoes and our carrots down in the crawl space underneath the house. We've also got some other various goods down there. It's about 48 degrees, which is a little bit warm. At this time of the year, we've had some warmer temperatures outside, and that influences what temperature it is down there. We've got some squash that's storing super nicely because it's been a little bit warmer, so we need to start working on eating those. The potatoes and carrots are doing great. A little vole was down there probably about 2 weeks ago, nibbling on some cheese and some other stuff. The cat took care of that. We don't really have a lot of rodents. It seems like maybe once a year one does find their way down there. We're gonna be having a potato leek inspired dinner tonight. It's also gonna be a little bit of a chowder too. Okay, I think that's all I need down there. Made a quick trip to the post office and picked up this beautiful teakwood cutting board. So the last one we had was pretty big, and unfortunately it was super warped. We've just been kind of dealing with it for a while. I'm pretty sure we brought it prior to 2010, so it was ancient. And it came kind of like really dry, so I'm oiling it. I don't oil our cutting boards as much as I should. You should probably do it pretty often, considering I rinse them all the time. I already got this first side done, and this other side I haven't done. So I'm gonna use some of the oil that we have, and I like to use my hands. I switched over to a paper towel because of the little juice area. I wanted to get that nice and greased up there. And we can't use this today. It has to actually absorb in. So we'll be chopping on a different cutting board. We've got to get leeks, carrots, onion, all of that simmering in butter and olive oil. And then we can add our potatoes. Okay. I'll try to get you the carrots and the onion and all that stuff first.
Already got our salt and pepper in there. That's always mandatory. And we're going to add some herbs, all dried from the garden this year, courtesy of Arielle. We have sage, thyme, and tarragon. Almost smells like black licorice. Interesting. So that is 1 jar of moose bone broth. We're waiting for the other to thaw out, and we'll add that one in there too.
Everything's cooked in there now, so we are going to do a little bit immersion blending.
We're gonna go ahead and turn this soup into an awesome chowder. And we're not just using regular salmon. This we have been saving. This is belly meat from silver salmon down in Valdez. So we're gonna cut it into little bite-sized pieces and we'll just boil it in the broth to cook it.
Our soup is just about done. We're gonna add some cream to it, and Eric and I are sharing one of the bread bowls tonight because they're fairly large. I have to turn over our kefir, and I wanted to show you how I was gonna do it. So this is kefir grains and milk. It's been 24 hours and it's thick. It's the consistency we want now to strain it, get the grains out, add some new milk to it. It is yogurt at this point. I am going to also be straining out some of the whey in order to thicken it up because we're kind of looking for like in between the yogurt and the cheese consistency for dinner tomorrow. So I'll show you how I do that. That's what we're left with. We're gonna put that in a clean jar with about 4 cups of milk and then let it go for another 24 hours. Got some salmon that I'm gonna feed to the cat. She doesn't eat salmon a lot, but if I cook one up for the chickens, I'll pull off a little flake for her because she does like it fresh. Also, we're gonna give her some kefir because she loves kefir. So that'll be her dinner. Oh, that's really good. Pizza pie. We're looking forward to dinner tonight. We are getting a few things ready. First, I'm going to grab some of our sauerkraut. I wanted to let you guys know how that was doing. So I have this little fermentation crock that I invested in this year, and it's a little bit of a learning curve to me. We've been able to keep this sauerkraut a lot longer. It's been down in the crawl space. We'll just bring it up every once in a while when we want some of it, and we'll hold it in another jar, put that in our little ice chest over there. So I'm gonna pull this off. That's her. Okay. I have one last cabbage that I can chop up. It's not frozen, and I can add it into here, and the brine, it's already good to go, so it should ferment. It's probably gonna ferment pretty slow down there though with those colder temperatures. We also got a cheese wheel again this year, pretty exciting. That's been down there. So we brought that up to get a little bit of a chunk for tonight. And I just make sure that everything is submerged below the brine before I put it back. I'll usually wash these weights, push them down, and then we store it in this 5-gallon pail. And the reason I do that is because I can put a lid for dust. It's kind of not very pleasant underneath there, and I don't want dust ending up in this little water seal or water ring area. Looks good. Let's get some cheese. I'm gonna start cooking these chanterelle mushrooms for dinner, mixed with some onions. We are making 𝐂𝐢𝐻𝐷, which we've had before, and it was amazing, but we didn't get to tell you how it tastes, so we're remaking it, and we're doing things slightly different. Traditionally, you don't cook the ingredients, but because these are wild mushrooms, we generally just don't eat them raw. So we are going to cook them just a little bit, and we're just gonna lightly simmer them in some bone broth that I have.
𝐒𝐢𝐬𝐦, the best way I can explain it is like a meat-filled potato pancake. We're working on the batter. Super easy to make, kind of unusual because we are going to be blending raw potatoes. We've got a bunch of them here. Those are gonna go in. We're gonna put in a little bit of onion. We're gonna do some salt and pepper, get it blended up for the batter, and then we're gonna add a couple eggs to it. Two eggs and a little bit of flour will make up the rest of our batter, and then we're gonna get the filling going. Our herbs of choice are going to be coriander, and then one that goes perfect with this is dill. These are all dried. That will complete our mixture. Last time we made it, we used caribou ground meat. This time, it's the same caribou, but this is the liver. We're gonna fry these up in some lard. All right. Yeah, pretty hungry. You know what the chip I don't really care for? Funyuns.
I like Funyuns.
You do?
I do like Funyuns. I do.
How do you feel looking for them?
No, it doesn't. It's a very simple meal, but I could have added some in. Got some of these done, and we realized that we wanted the mixture to be a little bit different. When I was thinking about this meal, I really wanted to use liver. I was actually thinking to mix it or mince it, make it like more like a pate. And that's what Eric did. So he blended the rest of that mixture. We added cheese to it. It's gonna be so delicious, I know it. We have sauerkraut and the kefir cheese mixture. So if you're like me and you let your cheese go a little bit too long, or you just don't get to it in the time that you want and it's more crumbly, you can either eat it like that, or you can add some of liquid kefir, like yogurt kefir, back to it and just hit it with an immersion blender, and you will get the consistency of very thick, beautiful sour cream. A little bit of salt. Pretty much tastes just like sour cream. Wow, that's a thing of beauty.
Beauties.
Jeez, these are still really hot.
Dollop of creme on there.
This recipe is delicious. If you ever get the chance to try it, I totally recommend it.
All right. It's 𝐒𝐢𝐬𝐦. Let's eat.
Can be. Is this good?
Yeah.
Here's your fork.
Spin them real quick.
Here's your knife. I'm
Here it
really
is.
hungry. I don't know if I told you that already.
I'm hungry, but I just want to I really want to.
You want to savor it? I know.
This is so much different than the last time we made it, though. I'm gonna tell you right now, because completely different recipe. Oh, still really hot.
Oh. The first thing I'm getting is the sauerkraut. Fermented, acidic. Then I get the sour cream. Then I get the delicious batter.
Hey, that liver's pretty good.
The liver's amazing.
It tastes just like a chicken liver. I don't want my liver undercooked.
No.
I'm not that type of person, but my favorite part is the way that you cook a potato blended raw.
Yeah, it's
and
pretty
it can
weird.
turn out this good.
It's pretty weird.
I can't even taste the mushrooms in here. I forgot.
I think you have to taste them separately.
I mean,
Yeah, it's really good. I'd say just as good as last time.
I
It's
love it.
definitely a lot different.
you could do this with like spicy meat. You could do anything.